In the early hours of 6:20 a.m., 21-year-old Barium starts her morning with some yoga and meditation. She tries to relax as much as possible during this time because she's got a hectic day ahead of her. At 8 a.m., she zooms out of her house like a kid on a sugar rush and arrives at her favorite cafe to pick up an Americano and a freshly baked breakfast sandwich. She quickly devours her meal while waiting for the bus. She tries to study while barely staying put on the bus, attends her classes, and studies for her exams quite passionately. By 12 p.m., she sets off with the same buzzing energy she has in the morning. As the running intensifies, she finally arrives at her class door, making it right in time for school. Later that day, Barium goes to the cafe to meet her friend who works there, Doan. She boasts about how she keeps her schedule very accurate. Doan, who is instead disturbed by her friend overworking herself, suggests that she might be pushing herself too far. Barium, who is obviously a workaholic, states that she's actually living her best life being busier than a bee. Doan quickly dismisses Barium's statement, suggesting that she might die of exhaustion if she keeps this up. Barium jokes that as long as Doan keeps the Americanos coming, that would never happen. Doan is amused by this. Barium quietly adds that Doan wouldn't understand, that at the end of the day, a complete schedule pleases her and makes her feel fulfilled. Doan looks a bit concerned for her friend but quickly asks Barium if they would still be going to the movies or if she would be too busy for her. Barium assures her friend that it's still happening and boasts again about how that's all because of her perfectly planned schedule and her diligence. Of course, Doan wasn't interested in hearing all of that over again and walked away to get back to her job, allowing Barium to space out for a bit. She talks about one thing she hasn't been able to schedule no matter how good she is at planning, and that's, well, dating. Yes, dating. She suggests that it's probably because she spent too long focusing on everything else except dating, recalling that she said she would start dating in university, which isn't really going as planned. She laments that everyone else around her has been so good at it that she thought it would be the same for her, thinking this perfect person would just appear. She declares that it's about time she made space in her schedule for dating, adding that she can't continue stalling and that she's sick of people asking her why she doesn't have a boyfriend. She was wondering how it was possible for people to go to school and go on dates at the same time. Just as she was spacing out, Doan interrupted, breaking the bad news to her that her boss wants her to work the next shift, therefore they wouldn't be able to make it to the movies again. Filled with disappointment, one of Doan's co-workers, Jaehyun, offers to close up for her, easing her off the extra work. Barium looks at him with curiosity. He adds that it really isn't a big deal regarding the fact that it hasn't really been that much of a busy day for him. Doan responds that she can't leave him to close up alone, but he insists, suggesting she closes up for him next time. Doan thanks him for this, and Barium might have just found that person already. Doan asks Barium if it would be okay to wait 2 more hours. Barium briskly responded, telling her it was okay. Barium decides to study for the programming exam and review the TOEIC questions while she waits for Doan to finish. Jaehyun quietly puts a plate of a slice of cheesecake on the table for her, leaving her confused. She immediately asserted that she didn't order it, but Jaehyun told her it was in the house, adding that it was for her to snack down on while she studied and it would be good with the coffee. Barium is left in awe but thanks him for his generous gift, and states that she would love to date someone like him. Then she quickly remembers that she has to concentrate and stay on schedule. While at the theater, Doan gives Barium a piece of paper, telling her that Jaehyun asked her to give it to her. The piece of paper contained Jaehyun's number. She told her that Jaehyun said she would text him sometime if she was interested. Barium asserted that Doan should have told him that she isn't interested in any religions. Doan mocked her statement, adding that Jaehyun isn't that kind of person. Barium has her expectations very high. Doan cuts in and says that he wants to invite her to a club, leaving Barium extremely disappointed. Doan tells her that Jaehyun saw her studying programming when he gave her the cake and thought she should join his new programming club because he was looking for new members, and he was too shy to ask Barium himself. That's why he asked Doan for help. She says it's a programming club. Barium considers joining Jaehyun's programming club, well, for obvious reasons. It's the next day, and Barium does have a few doubts. She'll be way busier now and she already has a tight schedule. She finally arrives at the club door. There she is inside the beautiful well-lit room, seated at a table and studying. Jaehyun walks up to her and asks her out to lunch and even calls her babe. She asks him for a few more minutes before they go on their dreamy date. Of course, this is all happening in her head. She's still in front of the door creeping out passersby. She quickly opens the door and tries to politely introduce herself only to behold what she least expected, a messed up room with a group of boys battling it out on video games while yelling violent words. She just stands there awkwardly staring at them till they eventually notice her. Feeling embarrassed and disappointed by the messy, smelly room, Baryum peeked in and shyly asked if it was the programming club. One of the boys said no, giving her an easy escape. But before she could flee, Yuyeon chimed in, telling her that it was the programming club. The first boy stammered, correcting himself and saying he thought it was the gaming club. Baryum tried to melt away, claiming a change of plans and even letting out a nervous laugh. Dejected because that's not what she expected, she bumped into Jaehyun as she tried to leave. Her hopes for love come back up quickly. He asked if she'd been waiting long, and with a forced smile, she said no and quickly went back inside. Sitting quietly at the back, Baryum listened to Jaehyun tell the boys to head to class. One of them, addressing Yuyeon as Hyung, which is a term men use to address older men, asked if they could play again after class. Yuyeon boasted he'd beat him again, and Jaehyun jokingly reminded them this wasn't an internet cafe and asked them to go to class. He apologized to her for the mess. Baryum, ever the optimist, claimed she liked the lively atmosphere. Jaehyun glanced at her form and confirmed her name as Baryum. She asked him not to use honorifics, which he found amusing. He then inquired about her programming experience, and she admitted she knew nothing but was eager to learn. Calling herself a noob, she worried if that meant she couldn't join. Jaehyun chuckled, assuring her it was just to gauge her skill level. He explained his vision for the club, a collaborative space for creating, not just studying textbooks. He suggested working on a mobile game together, sparking Baryum's interest. However, Jaehyun expressed uncertainty about attracting members with this unconventional approach. Baryum, impressed by his dedication, assured him it sounded fun, further deepening her admiration. Jaehyun left to submit her form, leaving Baryum excited about her decision. As he exited, he was surprised to see Yuyeon still gaming. He asked why he wasn't going to class, and Yuyeon said he was skipping class. He added that he's on a winning streak. Jaehyun joked that he's always on a winning streak when it's time for class and adds that he shouldn't be skipping class. Yuyeon asserts that he'll be fine, that he's only been late twice this term and that this was his first time skipping class with minimal latenesses. Baryum, a stickler for rules, observed their exchange with disapproval. Back at the club, Yuyeon continued playing a game named Clover Watch, while Baryum, prioritizing her time, refers to Yuyeon as Sunbae, which is a term used to address seniors at a workplace or school, and asks to use the computer beside him. He agreed, and she started her assignment. Yuyeon asks her what game she wants to play, and she tells him that she's doing her assignment instead. He asks if it is due the next day and wishes her good luck on it, but she asserts that it isn't due for a few weeks. Yuyeon is surprised and amused by this and asks himself if she should really be working that hard. He tells her he's impressed and adds that he thought she wanted to play a game on the computer. She tells him that she doesn't really like to play games because she sees them as a waste of time and she has no self-control. She adds that she does play games sometimes. He asked her which and she replied a Crush Candy. Yuyeon spewed his drink out of amusement. He apologizes to Baryum for his outburst. An awkward silence followed, highlighting their contrasting personalities. Yuyeon is unimpressed by the items he sees in his game, until suddenly, he receives an in-game message about a limited edition skin in his game, the one he'd been desperately waiting for. He tried to act cool, but excitement gnawed at him. He stole a glance at Baryum, ensuring she wasn't looking, before logging in. His angelic character appeared, meeting a friend who'd secured the skin. Relief and thanks were exchanged, followed by a promise of repayment. Yuyeon opened the item, revealing a stunning outfit for his character, a legendary skin. He couldn't contain his joy, jumping up and down like a kid, forgetting Baryum's presence. His facade crumbles when Baryum looks at the computer screen and asks him what he's up to his embarrassment. Baryum's question hung heavy in the air, making Yuyeon sweat. Caught playing a game, his mind raced. Trying to explain, his words got stuck, leaving him frozen. Just as he was about to say something, the door creaked open and Jaehyun walked in. Panic seized Yuyeon. With a quick alternate function 4, he shut the game, letting out a dramatic gasp to cover his tracks. Jaehyun apologized for the wait, oblivious to the mini-drama that just unfolded. Yooyeon felt doomed, he never had the chance to explain. Meanwhile, Barium filled Doan in on her conversation with Yooyeon, excited about their interaction. She mentioned that she told him not to use honorifics, but Doan advised her not to read too much into it. Doan explained that it's just a polite thing to say, not a big deal. Barium then playfully asked Doan for help, but Doan declined, citing her rule to not meddle in others' love lives. Barium agreed, she felt it was fair, feeling a bit offended too but understanding Doan's perspective. Doan then shared a story about Barium mistaking a love letter for a scam, which made Barium realize how bad she was at dating. She lamented about the challenges of dating and wondered why she even bothered. The teacher called Yooyeon's name, but he wasn't in class, prompting Barium to wonder if he was skipping again. Yooyeon, on the other hand, was having a nightmare about Barium gossiping about him and feeling embarrassed. He woke up feeling down and tried to convince himself that it's okay to like cute things. However, his attempt to appear confident failed, leaving him feeling mortified. He decided to find a way to silence Barium, so he went to the orientation party. At the party, a kid from the club welcomed Yooyeon back excitedly. He was drunk, and he foiled Barium's plans of getting close to Jaehyun, much to Barium's annoyance. She noticed Jaehyun sitting far away with a girl, sparking jealousy in her. As the party continued, Barium noticed Yooyeon glaring at her, wondering why he kept staring. Similarly, Yooyeon wondered why Barium was looking at him, unaware of her thoughts. 14-year-old Barium Jong plays a simulation game back when they were more prominent, having had to pick a character they'd want to be with, improve their character stats, meet someone cool, try to win their love, typical simulation gaming stuff, easy peasy. But Barium's mistake is that she thought these applied in real life too. But that entirely wasn't the case. Barium gets dumped by a video game character and gets laughed at by her other friends, but Doan tells her the problem is that she keeps thinking too hard, that it's her only problem. In the present, Barium finds herself still in the staring contest with Yooyeon. She tries to break it up by jokingly asking if there's something on her face. Yooyeon laughs and says no, and then they both stand there again in awkward silence. Jaehyun pops in and asks Yooyeon if he'd like to go to an internet cafe after. Yooyeon briskly answers yes. Barium is lost in thought, watching the both of them interact so freely. Dejected, she wishes she was as close to Jaehyun as Yooyeon was. Jaehyun asks Yooyeon about the legendary skin he got the day before. Yooyeon talks about how the other items weren't interesting. This topic sounds very familiar to Barium as she tries to chime into the conversation, mentioning the cute character from yesterday. Jaehyun is confused, and so is everyone at the table, and Yooyeon doesn't want them to know about it. But Barium doesn't know that, so she goes on about it, but Yooyeon tries to alter the story, leaving Barium confused. Jaehyun finds it funny that Barium would find a buff character cute. Barium just assumes that they're probably not talking about the character from yesterday. She finishes her beer and Yooyeon asks to see her outside quietly. Just as she was about to follow him, she realized that the person sitting right across from Jaehyun was leaving, and the seat would be empty. That was a perfect opportunity. Unfortunately, it had to be at the same time that Yooyeon wanted to see her outside, which puts her in quite a dilemma. She goes outside and waits for Yooyeon while also feeling a bit tipsy. Yooyeon walks out of the store and hands her a strawberry pop, adding that it would help her sober up a bit from all the drinking. Barium feels the strawberry pop is way too sweet, and that adds ice cream preferences to their list of contrasting tastes. Yooyeon tries to gather his words and asks her if she remembered that thing from yesterday and asks her not to tell anyone about it, adding that it's too embarrassing and he has a reputation to keep. Barium chuckles that she doesn't know what he's talking about and asks him to remind her what it is. Yooyeon, taking it the wrong way, thinks she's making fun of him instead, and asks her if he really has to say it, leaving her confused and agitated as she was in a hurry. Tensions rise between the two of them as Yooyeon feels Barium is making fun of him while Barium is antsy, feeling Yooyeon is wasting her time. Yooyeon struggles to utter the embarrassing subject, but as soon as Barium sees that the seat is finally free, she briefly agrees to his terms and hastens off, leaving Yooyeon confused. Just a day after Bariam hurriedly left her awkward chat with Yuyan, the teacher checked attendance in class. Everyone answered present when called, except Bariam. She was missing, which is quite surprising. Meanwhile, Bariam was at home nursing a hangover from a night of heavy drinking. Doan came by with hangover medicine, asking if Bariam had fun last night. Bariam, feeling down, didn't respond. Doan tried to comfort her and asked what happened. Bariam laments that her life is over, and Doan is very concerned. She tearfully confessed to binge drinking and doing regrettable things. Doan, concerned, asked why she drank so much, especially since Bariam doesn't even like drinking. But Bariam cried that for the first time, she was late for class, adding that the professor doesn't show much kindness to delinquents, leaving Doan bemused. Doan reassured her that one tardy wouldn't upset the professor, thinking Bariam was upset about her actions while drunk. Bariam sat there feeling ashamed. Doan then asked about Bariam's progress with Jaehyun. Bariam choked up, blaming Yuyan for ruining her chance. Apparently, when she went to the bar, Jaehyun was already with another girl. Disappointed and heartbroken, Bariam expressed her disapproval of Yuyan and his invitation to meet outside. Bariam is surprised that Yuyan is in the programming club too. Bariam mentioned the ice cream he bought her, but still felt upset. Doan thought it was sweet and suggested he just wanted to make sure she was okay. Despite this, Bariam remained unconvinced. Doan is surprised that Yuyan has such a compassionate side. Bariam starts to reconsider, thinking that he actually might have just wanted to be nice to her, but then she remembers the character that she saw on his PC screen. She remembers that she found it very cute and then went ahead to ask him what he was doing, which led to him acting weird. Then she remembers him mentioning it last night in such an embarrassed tone that she wonders if that was what he was embarrassed about. Knowing that she'd never go talking to other people about it, she wonders why he would be embarrassed about using a pink cute character. Doan says good things about Yuyan, like how good-looking he is, and adds that all the younger guys in their department love him. Bariam starts to understand now why Yuyan would feel embarrassed. Bariam admitted she wasn't a fan of him. Doan suggested Bariam text Jaehyun, saying it was the perfect time. Bariam said she already talked to him earlier, but Doan was surprised to find out that Jaehyun had hinted at having breakfast with Bariam and expressed how dense Bariam was for not catching his hint. Doan advised her to pay more attention, explaining the importance of spending time with someone you like. She even suggested Bariam stay single for now. Bariam asked if Doan had made up with her boyfriend, but Doan sighed, saying dating was hard no matter how experienced you were. Later that day, Bariam decided to ask Jaehyun out for ramen and added it to her schedule. She doubted herself, wondering if Jaehyun was just being nice. Her dilemma ended when Jaehyun approached her and called her pretty. Bariam, surprised, almost didn't believe him. Remembering Doan's advice, and trying not to make the same mistakes, she asked him out for ramen right away. Jaehyun remarked that that was very sudden. Bariam explained that he mentioned wanting something with soup earlier, so she thought it'd be a good idea. Jaehyun was touched that she remembered and found it sweet. However, he told her that he thought she had already eaten. Bariam reassured him, saying she could eat a lot. Jaehyun agreed to meet at the ramen spot near the school by 5. Bariam happily agreed, feeling accomplished. She felt so fulfilled, she screamed so happily, startling nearby birds. Excitedly, Bariam called her friend Doan to share the news. Doan wasn't as enthusiastic, dampening Bariam's spirits. But Bariam saw it as progress, even if Jaehyun might think of it as a casual dinner with a club member. She asked Doan not to ruin her moment, to which Doan advised her to manage her expectations and be objective about love. Feeling a bit uncertain, Bariam considered canceling. But Doan reassured her, reminding her that Jaehyun agreeing to dinner was a positive sign. Bariam felt reassured and thanked Doan. All dressed up, Bariam headed to her date, feeling like she was making all the right moves in a video game while talking to Jaehyun earlier. She couldn't believe her luck, as things rarely ended well for her in simulation games. But this real-life encounter seemed promising. Jaehyun texted her that he was waiting at the entrance. Bariam checked her appearance and entered the restaurant, only to be surprised to find Jaehyun with Yuyan. The atmosphere became awkward, and tensions rose between Bariam and Yuyan. Jaehyun explained that Yuyeon wanted ramen too, so he brought him along. Barium felt heartbroken, expecting a date with just Jaehyun. Despite the discomfort, they decided to have dinner together. During the meal, Jaehyun stated that he thought Barium and Yuyeon were already friends since they were in the same major. Yuyeon asserts that being in the same major doesn't automatically mean they become friends, causing more tension, Barium thinking that Yuyeon almost always gets in the way and Yuyeon thinking that Barium would expose his secret. Jaehyun apologized to Barium for not giving her a heads up about Yuyeon. Despite feeling disappointed, Barium tried to stay positive, hoping it was a good sign that Jaehyun introduced her to his friend. Jaehyun asks what they're going to order. Yuyeon says he's not sure yet. He asks Barium, and she says she'll take the Nagasaki ramen. Jaehyun says he'll get the shoyu ramen and Yuyeon follows suit. Barium remembered Doeon's advice about managing expectations. She felt better, realizing she had set her hopes too high. Tensions persist between Barium and Yuyeon. Yuyeon asks himself if Barium even heard what he said last night, and he hopes that she never says that out loud ever again. Barium questions Jaehyun about his close friendship with Yuyeon. Jaehyun tells her that they've been friends since they were kids. Jaehyun suggests she go to an internet cafe with them, much to Yuyeon's dismay. He explained that playing games was the fastest way to become friends with Yuyeon. Jaehyun asked Barium what games she liked. Barium found it hard to answer that question, and Yuyeon quickly answered for her, Crush Candy. Embarrassing Barium, Yuyeon tried to use this as an opportunity to stop Barium from coming with them. Despite feeling embarrassed, Barium tried to save face by saying she lacked self-control when it came to games. Jaehyun seemed disappointed, thinking Barium couldn't become friends with Yuyeon if she didn't like games. Furious with Yuyeon for ruining her evening by always getting in the way, Yuyeon wondered why she was even in the club if she didn't like games. He suspected Barium joined the club just to torture him, adding to the tension between them with Jaehyun sitting awkwardly in their midst. Jaehyun noticed a cute little toy on the counter and showed it to Yuyeon. Yuyeon pretended not to like it but secretly took pictures, claiming it was for his Baeyeol. Barium assumed Baeyeol was Yuyeon's girlfriend. Jaehyun whispered to Barium that Yuyeon had a soft spot for cute things, sharing it as their little secret. Surprised, Barium asked Jaehyun what his weak spot was. Yuyeon was curious, and Jaehyun felt embarrassed. To ease the tension, Barium quickly changed the subject to hobbies. Jaehyun mentioned he loved watching movies, particularly action movies. Barium excitedly agreed, sharing her love for action movies too. She asks Jaehyun if he has seen the new Marvel movie. Yuyeon follows what's going on and says that she's a natural, thinking that she is going to ask him out. In Barium's imagination she does ask him out, but in real life, she tells him that the movie's really good and that he should watch it. Yuyeon spews his drink out of disappointment. Jaehyun is kind of underwhelmed. As Jaehyun stepped away to take a call, Barium couldn't contain her excitement at finding a shared interest with him. Yuyeon, however, looking suspicious, asked Barium if she had a crush on Jaehyun.